Oh, you want me to? You got it. Good. So link to the case set. So here's the case set for term. There is a slight benefit in that we read the cases through at the tournament. So the judge reads through the case. At the other tournaments, the judges don't read through the cases. So you're lucky that this is one where they will read through them. So you're going to get to like listen to them again on the spot. But we're going to start with the first case, okay? And go from there. So here is the case set. It's at the top of that document. Sorry, it's this one. Everyone open that. It's called paid surrogacy. Did we actually, sorry, did we look at this yesterday? No. What did we do yesterday?
We did an overview of the ethical theories and the speech structure
Uh,
as well and scoring.
yeah, but we did, so the case we did was about
Speed limiters,
diary examples, speed limiters, case six. Okay, so we've
yes.
done case six. Now we're doing case one. So let's read through it. I can share my screen as well in case someone doesn't have it open. Okay, let's start with Aisha. You read the first paragraph for us.
On 8 January 2024, Pope Francis came out in favor of a global ban on surrogacy, a practice under which a person or couple intending to parent strike a contract with a woman whereby she agrees to have their genetically related embryo inserted into her uterus, to gestate the embryo or fetus, to deliver the resulting baby, and then hand it over the original person or couple, the biological parents. The woman is paid for this service.
Okay, Yiyun.
Um, Pope Francis called surrogacy a grave violation of the dignity of the woman, and in addition, exploitative of her. A similar view was expressed in 1993 by the philosopher Elizabeth Anderson in Chapter 8 of her book Value in Ethics and Economics. Anderson argued that by the very nature of the surrogacy contracts, the biological parents treats the surrogate mother as unworthy of respect and instead as an object to be used.
Good. Yusra.
Such contracts explicitly demand that surrogate mothers not form an emotional bond with the fetus, so as to ensure her willingness to hand over the baby once it is born and meets the further contractual requirements to have no relationship with the child afterwards. This, she maintains, is an unreasonable demand.
Okay, Aisha.
Such contracts also, she says, take advantage of the fact that many surrogate mothers are either poor or see their services as a gift, even if they're paid, or as atonement for past indiscretions. Anderson claims this leaves them open to exploitation by biological parents who are simply looking to get a baby as cheaply as they can, and, in the pursuit of that goal, are willing to take advantage of the surrogate's charitable motive.
Good. And Hamza.
However, Hugh
Hugh
MacLachlan,
McLaughlin.
another philosopher, argues that paid surrogacy isn't necessarily exploitative. He argues that when someone gives their uncirced, uh,
This says when someone gives their uncoerced.
uncoerced consent to a transaction, this usually is sufficient to make the transaction non-exploitative. Consent can count as an uncoerced even if the person giving consent is in a difficult situation.
Okay, good. And final paragraph I'll do. Meanwhile, theologian Daniel Tuminio Hansen points out that some women have had a very positive experience as surrogate mothers, and that the recourse to hiring a surrogate is often a last option for people who are desperate to start a family but cannot do so in the usual way. So, Um, let's have Yi-Yun, can you summarize the case for us? Just sort of the facts of the case. What is this about?
So it's about how uh they use a woman, like not another person, to reproduce a children. Is it that what I understood?
Yeah, can you try and go in more depth? So where does the baby come from?
So it comes from another person. It comes from another mother or another woman, and it's like, so it's exploiting that woman, and yeah, is it the
Well, whether it's exploitation is sort of the philosophical question. I'm just asking about the practical side. So, what it is a couple, so, man and a woman, they get their sperm and egg, I think, artificially put together outside of the womb, then inserted into another woman's womb, and that woman acts as a surrogate mother, raising the biological child of the other couple. So, one couple, it's their sperm and egg, so it's their baby biologically, but that sperm and egg is put into another woman to be birthed by that other woman. Because, for instance, the mother, the biological mother, can't have a baby for whatever biological reason, right? She has eggs, but her uterus maybe doesn't work in some way. Okay? And you pay like, 10,000, 20,000 USD, depending on the country, of course. And then another woman like has your child. Yes, sir, a question?
Yeah, is it possible for people to do this for practical reasons?
You mean, is this something that actually happens? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, like is it included in the case? Like, is it something that we could debate or like converse in?
What question though? Like, is this possible? Is that the question you're asking?
No, like if because you mentioned that it has to be like for whatever biological reason, but I wanted to ask whether, for example, for whatever reason, the woman doesn't want to go through the entire pregnancy, or she's in a very crucial stage in her career, or something like a more practical reason.
Totally, totally. I don't know how often that actually happens, but yeah, that's definitely a plausible thing that could happen. And you could ask about that hypothetical case. Certainly, certainly. Good. Okay, so that's the basic case. There's lots of details to it. There's lots of arguments on the pro and the con already inputted, embedded into these paragraphs. So what I think is the first thing we should do is we set up our table like this. So we talked about ethical theories yesterday. We talked about utilitarianism. Did we end up talking about deontology at all? No. Okay, so we have to cover this. This is important. There are two main ethical theories. Well, three. Three really key ones. The first two that we need to understand are util and deontology. Util, maximize utility, maximize happiness, very straightforward. Deontology, in a very broad sense, is a category of ethical theory. Category of ethical theory. Am I sharing screen? Yeah. That says some actions are required or forbidden whether or not they maximize utility. Right? Some things you just can't do, even if they make the world a better place at a happiness from a happiness perspective. Okay? Does this make sense? Hmm. So, so from a deontological point of view, there are some things you must never do. Now, one of my examples that I gave yesterday during my case was about privacy. Okay. So, privacy is a classic deontological concern. And the example I gave was this: imagine that your girlfriend or your boyfriend, should you have one, is has their birthday coming up, but you don't know what to get them as a present. And they're very picky about their presents. And they're not going to tell you. But you know that they've got a diary. And in the diary, they'll have written what they want as a present. So then you have the opportunity one day, maybe you see the diary and you're like, oh, she's out for a while. I could open it and have a look. And you're sort of thinking whether or not I should do that. let's assume for the case that it will maximize utility. So don't give me any arguments about, oh, she'll find out, you'll feel guilty about it. No, just assume you feel good about it, you get the right present, she's super happy, your relationship improves, everything's grand, everything's perfect from it. Okay? Let's assume that that's the case. Okay? So, given that, would you read the diary? I want you guys to answer. I need you to answer. Let's go. Would you read the diary?
I wouldn't,
Why not?
because, well, I mean, if our relationship is really going that good, that means that we built trust. And if we did build trust, then going through their secret diary would be like completely breaking that trust. And so that's just that's just going against all of the relationship principles.
Right. There are principles of a relationship, like trust, that should not be violated, even if it has a positive effect. I like it, right? This is a deontological principle. I love it. What else? What's another way of phrasing why we wouldn't do this? We talked about it yesterday. In my case, I gave a reason, a principled approach for why we wouldn't do this. What principle did I apply to this case? What right did I say that my girlfriend had? Privacy. Yeah, exactly. So there are many of these principles, right? Autonomy. Do you know what bodily autonomy means? These principles come up in WSDC debating all the time. Do you guys know what bodily autonomy is? No? It's the right to make decisions about your own body. So in general, we tend to believe in our society that there are you have a right to decide, whether you get a surgery or for medical treatment, like whether you accept medical treatment is up to you. You can't be forced to take certain drugs, right? You have to decide whether or not you do. And then, obviously for certain things like whether you're going to get kissed or not, like, sort of sexual consent, that's another thing that of course is required in all sorts of environments. What about parental autonomy? Do we generally believe that parents should be able to raise their kids like within certain boundaries, however they like? Yeah, probably, right? Like they should have a bunch of freedom about how they raise their children. It's another principle. What about religious freedom? Do you believe that anyone should be able to choose their own religion? Yeah, that's like a pretty pluralistic, modern, sort of liberal democratic idea. You should be able to choose your own religion. That's religious freedom. Now, even if I could demonstrate that, and it would be hard to, right? But even if I could demonstrate that forcing everyone to be Christian would maximize utility somehow, which I have no reason to think that it would, but assume that we had evidence for that, you would still say, no, don't do it. People have their right, fundamental right to um to religious freedom. So you get what's going on here, right? There are certain things that just can't be violated even if they maximize utility. That is the deontological framework. That's what deontology really means. And so there are a million potential principles that could arise in various cases, including the ones that I've just mentioned. But there is the most famous of all deontologists is Immanuel Kant. Okay? Immanuel Kant. He was an 18th century German philosopher. And I like to think of Immanuel Kant truly as being the most hyper nerd of any hyper nerd of all time. Okay. He's like the most nerdy dude you could ever hope to meet. He is, wrote a lot during his life. It's really complicated. It's like complex philosophy. He wrote on all subject areas. He revolutionized philosophy. Epic dude. Okay. He also paid for his university by playing billiards. Do you guys know pool billiards? Yeah, it's my favorite game. I have my own queue. I like play competitively, so I always like to think that I'm connected to Immanuel Kant through that activity. Unfortunately, I'm not good enough to have paid for my university education, but that's, neither here nor there. The other thing that people say about him, quick little story, is that he would go on a walk every day through his town in Germany somewhere, every day at the exact same time. To the point where, you know how back in the day you had to wind up your watches and your clocks? Like, well, people would wind up their watches and clocks based on when he passed their house because he was so metronomic with his activities, which I find so funny. Okay, so that's Kant. His theory is called Kantian deontology. That's how we refer to it. And more specifically, it is called the categorical imperative. Categorical imperative. The categorical imperative means imperative means things you must do or must not do. Categorical means across all categories, so at all times. It's like basic deontology, but it's like setting up certain principles by which we're going to be able to test actions to determine whether they are impermissible. So this is an important thing to recognize with Kantian deontology. We're really figuring out which lines you must never cross. And he has two formulations of his categorical imperative that you can test your actions against to determine whether they are completely unethical and not allowed. Okay, you ready to learn them? Here they are. Number one, only recommend actions. Oh, sorry, only do actions that you can recommend everyone do. The second formulation is always treat people with dignity. Now, let's make it way more complicated. Ready? But they are the basic principles. But now let's talk about it in terms of how Kant would talk about it and how people at the competition will. The first formulation of the categorical imperative, first formulation of the categorical imperative is universalizability. So the universalizability formulation. And like I said, the basic gist, the basic idea is any action cannot be ethical if you can't recommend that everyone does it. Like if you think about it logically, right? If you treat someone kindly and you're like, okay, can I recommend to the world that everyone treats everyone kindly? Yeah, I would still be able to treat other people kindly, right? So it's not illogical. But if it's like, oh, I'm going to go and steal something, and you say to yourself, well, as long as not everyone steals stuff and I'm the only one who does it, I'll get away with it. Everything's fine. That's like obviously not ethical, right? So at a very basic level, you should be able to universalize your maxim. But let me make it really explicit with this example. And this is the example he actually gives in his book, which is called the Groundwork for the Metaphysics of Morals. Quite a complex text, but here we go. So there are 4 steps to figuring out whether an action violates universalizability. I want you to be able to replicate these 4 steps. If you're going to use this theory, or if you're going to listen to someone else use it and they misuse it, I want you to remember these 4 steps. Step 1, think of an action. So here, I'm actually going to insert a table here to help us take notes. So step 1, think of an action. So here's an action. Ready? I'm going to ask Aisha, hey Aisha, can I please borrow $100 USD? I'll pay you back next week with interest. I promise. What do you say?
Yeah.
Yeah? Oh, awesome.
No,
Well, you've
okay, how much time how much time are you gonna...
This is a hypothetical, by the way. I'm not asking for your money,
Yeah, no,
obviously. But 7 days and I'll give you 10% back, like 110%, 10% interest.
10% of my $100.
So I'll give you $110 back in 7 days.
Yeah.
You're saying yes? Awesome. Good. Okay. So the trouble is you've made a terrible decision. I'm never going to pay you back. Okay. So this is my action. My action is ask to borrow money from a friend with no intention of paying it back. Now, the second step, once we've got our initial action, is to turn this action into a maxim. A maxim is a subjective reason for a decision. So normally it's structured as like a if X condition applies, then do Y. That's the structure of a maxim, a rule. Think of it as a rule. It's just a rule that anyone could follow. So here's a rule. Anytime you want money, lie to your friends to get it. Does this make sense, right? Turn the specific action into a general rule. Okay, third step, universalize this. Imagine everyone is doing it. So everyone is asking each other for money and never paying it back. Now, the fourth step is the critical one. And this is where people make their mistake. So I'm going to have to really hone in on this and clarify it. I want you to really focus here because this is the mistake people make. Kant does not care about utility. Deontology explicitly does not care about utility. Happiness, right? No. Consequences? No. Never. So this final step is critical because this is what makes it deontological as opposed to utilitarian. Are you ready? Ask yourself, can I, not should I, but just logically, can I do the action from step one in this world where everyone is following the maxim from my action? So imagine, Aisha, everyone is asking money for money, no one's paying it back, and then I say to you, hey Aisha, can I borrow $100? What are you going to say?
No.
Of course, no. You
Yeah.
can't trust me. Why would you trust me? You wouldn't. Precisely. So, boom, no chance. So, therefore, I cannot get money off my friends in a world where this maxim is universalized. Notice what's going on here. The fact that it's illogical, the fact that it is contradictory to itself, is the reason why it's a problem. Not because the world would be a bad place were this to happen. That's critical. Anyone who says, oh, and then everyone's going to be borrowing money and not paying it back, all friends are going to hate each other, and the fact that they hate each other, that's really sad. No, that's not what Kant's saying. He doesn't care about that. He cares about the fact that the action is illogical because you can't recommend everyone does it, and by its very nature, ethical actions must have the capacity to be recommended to all people, which I think is an intuition we share. Like I started at the beginning by saying, obviously, you want to only do things that you can recommend other people do. Cool? This makes sense? Okay, quickly think of an action, any action, and come up with an example on your own, and then explain it to us. I don't care if it violates or does not violate universalizability. You don't need to think of one that does necessarily violate it. You can just be like, going and driving your car, like any action, but maybe making it moral will be more interesting. Think of an action, apply the 4 steps, and come back and explain the 4 steps to us. You have 2 minutes. Time starts now. Honestly, once you have one, just let me know. Once you have the full analysis. How's it going, guys? Someone got one for me now? It's about 2 minutes. It doesn't need to be all written out, but okay, have time. That's okay. I won't stress.
Okay, I have mine ready.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, so the action that I thought of was giving money to every homeless person you cross on the street. So making it into a maxim would be anytime you see a homeless person asking for money, give them some money. So like everyone does that. And universalizing it and imagining that everyone would do this would maybe look like a world where potentially there would be less homeless people on the street and there would be less people desperately needing money for their survival to eat and for rent. And asking myself whether I could do step one in a world where this is universalized, I see this in two ways, that maybe there would be less or no homeless people on the streets anymore because everyone would be giving a bit of money. Then I would not need to do this. And another way of seeing it is that there would be less people on the streets. Therefore, I would still need to give out a bit of money, but not as often. Yeah.
Okay. So does it violate the universalizability principle? Or is this action universalizable in your view?
Um, I think it does violate the principle if we look at it in the first way. So that if there's absolutely no people on the streets. But I think it is universalizable and yeah.
Yeah, I think it is too. So this action, remember, it doesn't mean that this action necessarily should be done. There's other arguments for why maybe it should, but Kantian deontology is explicitly trying to find cases that must never be done. So this does pass the universalizability formulation. Because I will say, even if the first thing is true, and this resulted in no more homeless people, which it wouldn't, but like assume that it would, still the initial action of the maxim of like if then, right? You could still do. So anytime you see a homeless person, could you give them money? Yeah, you could, right? You're not going to see any more homeless people. That's fine. Although, again, not really true. But like, even if you didn't, still it would be possible to give them money in a case where they did exist. So I think that this flatly and wonderfully passes the test of universalizability. Aisha.
My action was authorizing the use of AI in every school exam. And so the maxim is anytime you have an exam, you can use AI. And so when you universalize this, everyone is using AI, so everyone is passing their test. And I can succeed in my exams because I use AI.
I can still use AI in my exams. Is that what you're saying? So just give that final point for me again. So you're saying it is universalizable because I can still use AI in my exams. Is that the idea?
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
Okay. So does anyone disagree with this analysis? Does anyone have a different take on whether it's really universalizable? If everyone is, are we assuming AI means cheating, right? So everyone's cheating on their exams using AI? Then the question is, can you still cheat using AI if everyone cheats using AI? Does anyone want to push back on the conclusion here that there's no problem and it won't change anything?
Uh, Maybe that if the teachers then realize that everyone's passing or that everyone's getting almost perfect grades, they're going to remove tests in the first place, which would prevent us from cheating in the first place.
Yeah, or change the nature of tests so that they could never be cheated on using AI, right? verbal tests where you're in a room that's like blacked out from all technology. I don't know, some crazy stuff like that. You like have to take tests like in a completely dark environment. No, I'm not sure, but they would probably be able to find ways, maybe, hopefully, to prevent you using it. So I feel like if everyone started doing this, um, it would eventually they'd have to figure out a way to prevent it. And if that's the case, then it might not be universalizable. Which, Aisha, like, wouldn't we hope that if we're using an ethical theory, right? You hope that it prevents you doing things that we all know are bad. So what we're trying to do when we're coming up with these ethical theories or thinking about them or testing them, what are we testing them against? What are we testing them with? We're testing them with our intuitions, our natural sort of our natural ethical intuitions. So, Aisha, what is your natural ethical intuition about whether or not we should cheat on our tests?
We shouldn't, because then you don't have knowledge.
Yeah, that's the utilitarian argument, right?
Yeah.
That's like the your life is worse if you cheat argument, which is separate. But so we'd hope, right, that this theory would also recommend the same thing. If the theory says, oh no, go ahead and cheat, it's like, okay, it must be a bad theory, right? So I think the fact that we can formulate this formulation so that it does show that it's a violation to cheat, that's a good thing. And I think that we can in this. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think we can argue that it does violate universalizability. Well done. Good. Okay, Yiyun.
So one is I don't know if it's good or not. So is you kill someone defending yourself.
Kill someone in self-defense. Yeah, go ahead.
So for my second step, turn this action into a maxim. I am saying that anytime you want to kill someone, say that you are just defending yourself, which then imagine if we universalize this, everyone, if they want to kill someone, they will just use their defending themselves to kill someone. So can they do this from step one? No, I think no.
You want it to be no, but is it really no?
No, it's not.
It's yes. It's yes. Of course you can still do it. Yeah. Right? You might get killed in this society, but that's like doesn't preclude you from doing it while you're alive, right? And it's not obvious you're going to get killed. So it's not intrinsically illogical in the same way that the other ones are. The other weird part about this, so Ian, you've found a case, right? Where it's like, this is what I was just saying. You've just found a case that seemingly, unless we change something, demonstrates that murder is okay in Kantian deontology. That's not great, is it? You can find this little trick and then it's like, oh, you can just murder people? Like, what the heck? Can't? Like, what are you talking about? That can't be right. Can't be right. So there are ways around this. There are two things. One is that we haven't learned the second formulation yet, which we also need to test the action against. Your action will definitely violate the second formulation. So that's good, right? Okay, but second, I actually think that you've got a little bit of something weird going on in here. You say in your first action, you're killing someone actually in self-defense. Now, your maxim does not reflect that action. Because would you agree that killing in self-defense is totally legitimate? If someone's trying to murder you or rob you on the street with a gun, like you have the right to fight back and to kill them, right? So again, it makes sense, right? Maxim is a totally different case, which is someone goes out trying to kill someone and then lies about it and says that it was self-defense after the fact. They're two very different things. So the real maxim here is anytime you are in mortal danger, use self-defense to kill or kill in self-defense. Now, universalize it totally universalizable, and rightly so. That should be universalized, correct? Good.
Yeah.
Do you see the... Okay, nice. And just keep in mind, we're coming to a second formula in just a second. Hamza, you got one?
So actually, I am sorry, I did not get one because I didn't understand fully.
Do you feel like you understand now?
Not yet. Could I get another example?
Yeah. So, can you try and tell me which of the four steps you're having trouble with the most? So obviously you can think of an action, right? I mean, do
Yeah.
it for me right now. Think of an action.
Um, Lying to my parents to cover for a sibling.
Great. What did your sibling do? Just as an example. Broke the
Sneak out of the
glass.
house.
Sneak out of the house. Okay. Oh. And guys, I do love it when you keep your cameras on. It just makes me feel like I
Yeah,
know if
I'm
you're
sorry,
busy.
I can't put it today because I'm very sick. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay. Um, so you've got an action. Lie to your parents to cover for your sibling leaving the house. Great. Or not great, but I get it. Turn that action into a maxim. So a maxim is just a rule. It's like turning that individual action into a principle where we say, if this is the case, then this is the case. So what is the principle associated with this action? If,
If you get caught, we both get grounded.
no, turn the action that you did into a rule. Like, what rule are you effectively following?
Oh,
So remember, uh-huh.
you should all no. If if your sibling sneaks out, you don't snitch.
No, you don't snitch. Exactly. That's the rule. You see? So the rule that justifies that action.
Hmm.
Now universalize it. So you imagine what?
Everyone is not is covering for their siblings and not tattletaling to their parents.
Yep, to their parents. Beautiful. And so the final thing you ask yourself to determine whether it's okay or not, or whether it violates the universalizability formulation, is you ask yourself, can in a world where everyone is following that, all siblings are covering for each other in this regard, right? Can I still cover for my sibling in a
Yes.
case where this happens? Yes, absolutely. So it does not violate the universalizability formulation. In a case where there's an action where, when universalized, you cannot do the original action, that is a violation.
Hmm. Okay.
Does this make sense now?
Yes, I understand. Thank you.
Beautiful. Okay, so good. So we have it. This is great. Yes, Yusra.
Yeah, earlier you mentioned that we have to memorize this or learn it so that in case we want to mention it or someone else mentions it wrongly, what would
Yeah.
what would it look like if we were the opposing team kind of like put a few flaws in there and we wanted to fix it up?
Okay, here we go. Judge, in this case, I will use Kantian deontology. I'm going to use the universalizability formulation to argue that paid surrogacy is a very bad thing and is wrong. Okay, let's move on to my argument. Let's analyze this case with universalizability. Step one, or let's think about the maxim being offered here, which is that when a parent wants a child but they can't have one, they pay a surrogate to have it. Now, imagine that everyone is following that, so you have all of these surrogacies happening. Well, now ask yourself, is this world a good thing or a bad thing? Are more people happy or suffering at the end of this? And guess what? Lots of people are going to suffer a lot because there are all these poor women who are having babies when they don't really know what it's all about. They don't know the effect. It's their first baby. And then the money is not worth the pain and suffering of having the baby. So then you create all these unhappy mothers. This is terrible. This makes the world such a sad place. Can you comment? Can you give me what like a clean commentary would be for that bad case?
Well, we could say that thank you very much, Team A, for bringing that up. However, I would like to mention the facts that you mentioned that the mothers would end up being very unhappy and that the money is not worth the pain that she goes through. However, that is quite subjective depending on which mother who the people are. And in some cases, in some countries, you would actually help and benefit a lot of mothers who would have the opportunity to make all that money if this is acceptable.
Does anyone else have a different comment to make that's a little bit more focused on how this is a mistake? So the mistake I made was not that. That can be a legitimate argument, but I made a more formal mistake, a more structural mistake in my application of deontology, in my application of Kantian deontology. So your question to me was, Archie, you said like we need to understand this in case someone does it wrong. I just did it wrong and you didn't notice. Okay? But I promise I did something wrong that I just told you would be wrong. I actually have told you like maybe 3 times. I'm like, you have to be careful that you don't make this mistake. And I just then went and made the mistake. So what was the mistake? Anyone? Ian?
You kind of use utilitarianism
Ready? Ready?
to
Wait,
more
once
about
and for all, we get it. Stop.
no, it's
Utility?
utilitarianism,
Okay,
utility,
good.
consequentialism,
Utilitarianism.
area,
Utilitarianism. Go ahead. Sorry, keep going.
utilitarianism.
Yeah.
So you kind of use the utilitarianism since you said about more the consequence and not the process, and you didn't mention how if everyone does that, are they still can they still do it?
And
Can
so the further thing, yes,
yeah.
and the further thing to explain here, that's absolutely the problem. But the final step in this explanation in a commentary would be like, because Kantian deontology, the first formulation of his categorical imperative, the universalizability formulation, specifically requires that you test an action as to whether it is logically possible to complete in a world where everyone is following the maxim based on that action. So the example he gives in his book is about borrowing money while lying about paying it back. If everyone did that, his argument is not that the world would be a bad place. It's that you could no longer do the original action because no one would lend you money. So it's like fundamentally illogical. Your argument was not, my argument that is, right, was not that it was fundamentally illogical. It's just that I'm making a utilitarian argument for it being bad. I did not make a Kantian argument at all. I just made a utilitarian argument and phrased it as if it was Kantian deontology. That's the mistake I made. Does that make sense, Yusra? That's what you're going to
Yes,
be
it does.
looking out for? Okay, good. Yeah, yeah. And this is the mistake that you guys could easily make as well. Okay? Easily. So that's why I'm like harping on about it. So that's a brilliant question, Yusra. Thank you for like forcing me to give you another example because yeah, this could easily happen. Okay. Are we ready for the second formulation? Yeah? Okay, second formulation of the categorical imperative is never treat people merely as means to an end, but always as ends in themselves. Okay, what? What's this? The basic idea is treat people as if they matter with dignity, with respect, with a regard for their humanity. All of these things are like the same thing because this is called the humanity formula. So let's get into the nitty gritty then of the language he uses. His argument is that you must never merely treat people as means to an end, but always as an end in themselves. Means to an end, means to an end is the tool by which you achieve something. So the means is the tool. Ends are goals in themselves, the things you're trying to achieve. Or like, yeah, the end goal. So ask yourself this. It doesn't perfectly work in this example. let's just imagine, right, that you have a plumber come to your house to fix your toilet. Okay? Yian, are you treating that plumber as a tool to achieve your goal of having your toilet fixed?
Yeah.
Right. So is it unethical? Do you think, just before you even think about this theory, is it unethical to have a plumber come to your house and have him fix your toilet?
It is ethical.
It is very ethical, obviously. Why is it ethical? Because, and it doesn't violate this, because you're not merely treating him as means to an end. You are treating him as means to an end, but not merely. Merely means only, exclusively. You are also treating him as an end in himself. How is that reflected? How are you treating him as an end in himself? Someone who matters, someone who you respect.
Oh, well, he helps me to do the toilet, to fix the toilet. No.
No, that's him. That's you treating him as means to an end. That's you just like using
Well, I
him to fix your
respect him
toilet.
as a human.
But how do you reflect that respect in this relationship?
I paid him.
There you go. You pay him. It's a mutually agreed upon contract, right? Everyone agreed to the parts of the contract. So therefore, you are respecting his humanity, right? Now, Aisha, if the plumber comes to your house and fixes your toilet and you said you'd pay him, what is the currency in Morocco?
Dirham.
Dirham. I've literally never heard of that in my life. That's cool. Okay. What? Dirham? Okay, forget it. You have to pay $100, right? And then you just say, you pick up a stick and you're like, I'm gonna beat you if you stay here. Get out of my house now. Once he's finished, and you're like, I'm not paying you a cent. Ah! And you chase him out of the house. In that case, Aisha, are you treating him with respect and dignity?
No.
Obviously not, right? Obviously not. Yeah. So that's the basic premise. Respect other people's desires. Other people have desires just like you. You need to remember that. You need to care about them, and you never can treat people just as a way to achieve your own goals. Cool. This is pretty straightforward, right? So going back to the case that who I forget who came up with it, but the deontological the universalizability case, where you kill someone and then you like lie about why you killed them and say that it was self-defense. Like, is that treating people as like with respect and caring about their ends?
No.
No, that's just doing murder, right?
Yeah.
So obviously that's immoral. So boom, there you go, perfect. Like another bad case swept away or told that it's wrong according to Kantian deontology. Just the second formulation instead of the first. Boom, awesome. Now, when you do a deontological case, there is a particular structure you need to use. And this is where it's going to get a little bit complicated. Well, yeah, it's not too bad. When you do a deontological case, remember the structure of an ethical argument, the deductively valid ethical argument that we talked about before, where we say, here's the theory, or like thesis, theory, arguments. Yes, we remember this? Thesis, answer to the question. Theory, what's the philosophical theory that answers the question of what is the good and how should we behave, and then apply that to the case and give the arguments. When it comes to, hello, Gali. When it comes to by the way, you're going to have to go back and watch this recording, okay? It's going to, but I feel like you already knew a little bit about deontologies. But anyway, we're now talking about how to apply the two formulations of the categorical imperative and other deontological ethical principles to cases themselves. And here is how. So we do our thesis, right? So we're looking at paid surrogacy. So let's do paid surrogacy is ethical. Okay. Let's do a deontological principle. Now, here's what's important to recognize. Never, ever say, we are approaching this from a deontological perspective. Deontology is where you have certain principles that you don't cross, even though it might maximize utility. Now, that's an accurate definition of deontology. But deontology is not itself an ethical principle. It is a branch or category of ethical principles. Yes? So you need to have a specific ethical principle that you're applying in this context. So it's not enough to just say, we are approaching this from deontology. No, it has to be, we're approaching it from deontology, and the specific principle we're applying is, and then you need to come up with some principle that you care about. So we talked about a few at the beginning, right? Bodily autonomy, parental autonomy, religious freedom, privacy. These are all potential principles. So which principle motivates the idea that it's legitimate to have paid surrogacy relationships where one woman is paid to have the baby of another couple? What principle could we use here to justify that situation? I actually think one of the principles we've already talked about at the beginning could be used.
Bodily autonomy, because she chooses whether or not her body is used.
Bodily autonomy, and maybe we can include in there the idea of consent. Consent is when you make an active decision to do something. You make an active decision to do something, and you know the consequences of what you're deciding, and then you actively agree to it. And that sort of reflects bodily autonomy. That's why they kind of go together. When you're doing this, you need to very clearly express why this principle does actually hold, why we already believe it, how somewhere in our society we already reflect this principle. What you're trying to do here is demonstrate to the judge and Team B that this principle is something that we all take seriously in the status quo, or that we should take it seriously. But the critical piece here, that, again, this is the second thing where I'm going to say, I guarantee you could and probably will mess this up. Ready? So this is where you lock in. Do not reference the actual case in question. Do not reference paid surrogacy in the theory section. No, 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 no. You must demonstrate that this principle exists, irrespective or regardless of the actual case in question. This is logically important. I don't have time to really demonstrate why, but I do want you to be very clear about this. You must demonstrate this principle using examples, hypothetical cases, or systems of society that we already have in order to show that we already care or should care about this principle, irrespective of the case itself. The reason you need to do this is to do with it being a deductively valid argument, because it's circular if you start by demonstrating the principle with the case in question. Okay? You have to trust me on this. So now, the argument section, what are you going to do? What do you think? Once you've set up this principle of bodily autonomy and consent, and you've said, look, here's an example where we can demonstrate that we all believe that bodily autonomy and consent are critical things. Now, what am I going to do in my argument section? Anyone? What do my arguments have to demonstrate?
The example that I gave is similar to what the case is.
Yes, exactly. This principle also applies to supplies? No. Also applies to paid surrogacy. Boom. Exactly. Yeah. So, can you guys think of a place in our society or some law or some ethical principle or a hypothetical case where we can demonstrate that consent and bodily autonomy are obviously something we all care about? Something uncontroversial, something where everyone is going to be like, yeah, I agree. Look at that. It turns out I do believe in this. Can anyone think of an example? Something that is sufficiently similar to surrogacy without actually being surrogacy? I mean, just quickly, does everyone believe in the principle of bodily autonomy and consent? I get the right to do with my body what I please, and no one can force me to do something with my body that I don't want to do. You guys agree with that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so can you think of an example where that principle is obviously coming to the full, is like very clear? You could think of a case where someone might violate it, and then we all cringe and go, oh, that's so obviously bad, and it's bad because it violates this principle. That would demonstrate the principle is true. Yusra?
Maybe in a in a hockey team where in a school hockey team where everyone has to play, but not everyone's willing to take the risk of harming themselves, but the coach is forcing all of them to play. That's directly not respecting everyone, like the players' bodily autonomy to not play and not hurt themselves.
Hmm. Let me just phrase that back to you and see whether you think this is a strong, strong case of violating bodily autonomy. You've joined a hockey team, you've trained for the season, you've played in other games, and then in this game, you're like, I don't want to. And the coach is like, what are you talking about? You've made an obligation. Get on the field.
No, I'm thinking more of like a school team where you have to participate. So like in every sports session, you have to participate against your will.
So you think students should have the ability to opt out of sports programs that they deem to be too dangerous?
Yeah. Well, in this case, yeah, not personally,
In this
but yeah.
specific, right,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's just slightly weird because this doesn't really happen. And like, it's, you're on the right track. You're heading in the right direction. We can think of something that's way more clear, though, and demonstrates the principle of bodily autonomy in a much more direct way. Aisha?
Well, for example, when a man invades the personal space of a woman or touches her when she does not want to be touched, well, that clearly violates bodily autonomy and consent. Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. Assault.
Yep. Assaulting, like, a guy like grabbing a woman on the street, 100%. This is a case where obviously we believe that the woman should have, well, anyone should have the bodily autonomy and the demand, the right to have to consent to these sort of things. 100%. I think this is a very clear case where we believe that you can't do something to someone unless they consent to it. Another thing to say here, though, is that this is like the reverse almost. This is the reverse. This is when you you should be able to prevent someone from doing something. The case that we're talking about, the surrogacy case, is that you should be able to agree to do something, that you should be able to grant consent for things that even if they harm you, even if you're gonna like have to suffer through 9 months of pregnancy. So it would be even better if we could think of a case where we believe that people have the right to do things that harm them if they have full knowledge and consent of the situation. Can we think of any examples like that?
Contraception.
Okay. So I have the right to like take a pill or an injection or whatever that prevents me having a baby, even if it causes other hormonal imbalances, something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Right to contraception. Now, some countries and some cultures don't believe that, do they? Like Catholics won't believe this. Like I'm pretty sure I don't know what's like Islam say about this? Does it allow for contraception in like a really conservative Muslim setting?
It generally doesn't allow it, but there are specific exceptions where it does allow it.
Yeah, sure. So maybe this is like a slightly controversial case as well. Do you guys, what about tattoos? What's the status on tattoos?
In Islam,
Yeah, or I guess just like,
like
what do you guys feel
in
about
general,
it? Yeah.
I personally like personally on me, I would not want to have tattoos, but like on people, I think it looks nice sometimes.
But whether it looks like nice or not is not the question. The question
Yeah.
is, should people have the right to get them?
No, in Islam, it's having tattoos is misregarded.
Ah, it's haram, like to have a tattoo.
Yeah,
Okay, so this
most
is that the
people
right
think so.
term? Yeah, okay. So another controversial case. Oh God, can we think of anything that's uncontroversial? I mean, like what about
Maybe
yeah?
vaccines, getting a vaccine, there's some harms to it, but like generally it's good. The person takes
Yeah.
the
Also controversial though. Like the question of whether we should demand that people get vaccines to protect other people is also controversial. Oh my God, okay, we're struggling now. What about right to contraception, right to you should be able to choose whether or not you um
maybe smoking.
like, yeah, smoking, same-sex marriage also to me is an obvious case of where you should have bodily autonomy. But again, that's controversial in many other settings. So, like, okay, but you get the idea, right? Even if we can't find a perfect principle right now, and maybe if you can't find a great principle that clearly demonstrates a parallel case, maybe you just shouldn't use this, right? Maybe I picked something bad. But I personally, if I was doing this case, I would be saying something like, look, people have the right to like I believe in a liberal society, women should have the right to choose what they do to their body, even if it causes harm. So contraception is a fine example of this, where we generally think as long as you know what you're getting yourself into, you should be able to have contraception that prevents you from having a baby, even if it causes some other harms, right? Even if you really want to prevent yourself having a baby permanently, you could get surgery to prevent that happening. Men get vasectomies. I consider that to be an example of consent. Then you have to apply that to this case. You have to say, look, as long as the woman knows what she's getting into and she agrees to it, she's an adult making a free decision about her body. She should be allowed to make this decision in this case. Broadly speaking, we struggled here. Maybe I failed to teach this clearly, but broadly speaking, do you guys kind of follow the structure of how you have to do a deontological case? You have to set up the principle and then apply it to the case. Yeah? Okay. Okay. And if you're doing Kantian deontology, you have to explain the Kantian principles and then apply it to the case, right? So, like, here's a great example. If the woman doesn't want to do it, now, this is just exceedingly obvious, but if the woman doesn't want to have the baby, and then you demand that she does, and you force her to do it, what does that violate? I mean, that obviously violates consent in the same way that a sexual assault violates consent, doesn't it? So that would be a really easy case to make an argument for. They deserve, and same with just like having a baby in general. You can't just force a woman to have a baby, like, obviously, right? Okay. So 12, 12. All right. This is the deontological structure. Now we can go back and we can look at the case again. And we have now two theories. One, deontology, which is very broad and has lots of components and many other potential principles to bring in, and one, utilitarianism. And we can now look at the case and start to fill out these boxes to develop our ideas and our preparation for the case. This is what you do with every case. So let's say, is paid surrogacy ethical? That's the question. Very straightforward. We're going to keep it simple. And now we're going to try to fill in these boxes. So you guys all have access to this document, right? I'll send it again in the chat in case you don't, but there it is in the chat. Can you open this? Go in and try to start filling this out. So pro-util are all the reasons why paid surrogacy will maximize happiness in the world. And by the way, there are lots of examples from the case itself. So you can go to the case and you can read through the case, and like every paragraph has something that will fit into one of these boxes. You can copy paste those ideas. Okay, get to work. You have a few minutes of your own solo dolo work to fill in this grid. If anyone's having real difficulty, I see this not like quickly filling out. Can you talk to me? So if you don't know what to do right now, please talk to me and ask me questions. If you feel lost, let me help you. Hamza, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of feel lost.
Okay. So, um, let's make sure we know all the parts. So you understand, or do you understand the basics of paid surrogacy?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay, tell me quickly, like what is it? What is paid surrogacy?
Um, I don't really know like how to explain it, but I
Well,
could totally explain it. I understand it.
there so there are three people involved. In any paid surrogacy situation, there are at least three people involved. Who are the three people? Or maybe four. There are four. There's the baby,
The baby,
there's
the parents,
like the biological parents, yes, who are going to end up with the kid, and
the doctor.
no, the surrogate mother.
Oh,
The
yeah.
surrogate mother is like another mother, like another woman,
Hmm.
another woman. That's the critical person. That's like probably the person who the case is going to be about. We don't know that, but probably, right? So there's another woman. So you got the baby, the other woman, and the parents. Where's the baby going to be when it's gestating, when it's in the womb? Whose womb is it going to be in?
And the mother,
Which mother?
the, the surrogate mother.
The surrogate mother, not one of the parents. So the actual parents, the biological parents, their sperm and their egg, you know what they are, right? Like the biological material that makes up a baby. Yeah, they are taken out of the parents, put together in a test tube, and then inserted into another woman. That woman has that
Uh-huh.
baby. That baby is then handed back to the original parents. And to do this, there is a paid transaction. So some 10,000, 20,000, $30,000 are paid from the parents to that woman.
Hmm.
Makes sense, right?
Yes.
So now what we've got here is a question, an ethical question, which is just, is this practice of paid surrogacy ethical or not? You get that question, right? Like, is it right or is it not right? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what we're asking. And we're trying to take notes about that question in a way that allows us to convert it later into an ethics Olympiad or TK Ethics Invitational case. Now, when I say a case, you remember what I'm talking about, right? The seven-part structure that we learned yesterday.
Yes.
Yeah, where we do a thanks, thesis,
Thank.
theory,
Yeah. Counter
argument,
argument.
counter-argument, discharge. Yeah. So that's the premise. What we're doing right now, what I like, the next thing I want you to do is I want you to look at this grid and see if you understand it. So on this grid, we have the pro in this column. So this is all pro arguments. What do I mean when I say a pro argument here? Do you understand?
Means with paid surrogacy, it's ethical.
Yes, for paid surrogacy.
Yeah.
And the con is against paid surrogacy.
Yeah.
Now, what are these columns? This column, what's the top of it? What does this say?
It says utilitarianism.
So therefore, any argument in this box, what's it going to be a combination of? It's going to be a pro argument, so for paid surrogacy,
Hmm.
from what ethical perspective?
From huh?
Which column is it in? So it's in the row of pro, and which column is it in? What's the
Um,
heading?
utilitarian. No,
Yeah,
utilitarianism. Oh,
exactly.
yeah.
It's in the utilitarian. So this box is going to be filled up with arguments from a utilitarian perspective that argues for paid surrogacy. So what are those arguments going to say, Hamza? Like broadly speaking, if it's a pro-util argument about a case, what is its conclusion going to be?
So maybe the the sub. What's the name of the mother that has the child?
Surrogate mother.
The surrogate mother should be like compensated. She should get something.
Well, the whole case is we're talking about the surrogate mother getting paid to have the baby.
Oh,
So your argument in the util pro section saying this is right, this is good. When does a utilitarian say something is good?
when it doesn't affect the world,
When it doesn't affect the world?
I think.
No. So a utilitarian argues something is good if it maximizes what?
Efficiency or no, utility,
Which is, what am I doing?
happiness.
Uh, happiness. So the pro-utility argument is going to be that this thing, paid surrogacy,
Mhm.
increases happiness in the world.
Okay.
What's the con-util argument going to be? What do we have to conclude in the con-util section?
Shouldn't be happy.
Shouldn't be happy, or it will cause
Oh,
suffering?
yeah, we got severing.
What will cause suffering?
Paid surrogacy.
So come down here with your cursor. Are you on this document right now?
No, I'll go on it.
Yeah. So open this document. Come down here where I am in the con-util section.
Um, is the second one you sent, right?
Oh, yeah, I think so. I think it might be the same document.
Okay, I'm on it.
Okay. Now put your mouse in the util con box, your
Yeah,
cursor. Con. Are you in the con?
yeah, I'm on it.
You sure? Write down, write Hamza. Just write Hamza so I can see you're in the right
Yeah,
place.
I'm wearing
Okay,
it.
good. So now, what's the conclusion you have to draw? You have to say, what did we just say the argument is going to be? It's going to be paid surrogacy causes suffering because.
Should I write that?
Yep, yep. And now you have to finish the sentence. Now, where do you get your ideas from? Well, one, you could think of it yourself, but two, you could come over to the paid surrogacy case. So if you look at my screen, you're going to see this case study, which is what we read at the beginning.
Mhm.
In this, every single paragraph has a different argument in it. Probably one of them is going to be con util, but maybe not. So you have to now, with a mixture of reading through this again, thinking to yourself, like, how could paid surrogacy cause suffering? Can you think
Hmm.
of any way that paid surrogacy could cause suffering?
The mother could be badly injured after.
Yeah, like pregnancy can cause physical health side effects,
Mhm.
all the way to death. Like, it's not zero risk to have a pregnancy. So why don't you write that down? Paid surrogacy can cause suffering because the mother might be at risk of health effects. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to come back to you in a second now, but just pay attention to what's happening in the rest of the class, and you'll figure this out. You'll figure out the rest of these boxes. Okay, guys, I'm going to review some of your work. Can you all please put your name next to what you wrote? Sorry, just as quick as you can, do that. Okay, Yusra, I'm going to start with you. Let's read through the con first util arg. Yusra, you're going to present it to us, and then everyone else, you're going to comment on it.
Sorry, which one?
Con util.
Con-util.
Yeah.
I wrote that the woman is paid for this service, which makes her happy and fulfilled. So
No, no,
it was
wait.
very
This is pro. This is pro.
oh con-util. Okay, so the first one I okay, okay. I wrote that the biological parents treat the surrogate's mother as unworthy of respect and instead as an object to be used, which is what was written in the case. Then I commented and said that it makes the surrogate's mother unhappy and unrespected despite getting paid, just like the plumber example that we were talking about.
So do you think the plumber is upset when he has to fix a toilet?
No, but I do think that the plumber is upset when he gets threatened and doesn't like the way that he's being treated, which is similar to this
But
in a way.
okay, why do you think the mother is being treated like poorly?
Like holy?
Yeah, I mean, like for this argument to make sense, the mother has to be treated poorly, right?
Oh, poorly. I heard holy.
Oh, no, poorly.
Why do I think the mother is being treated poorly? Poorly? Uh, maybe simply because they might see her as a tool to what they could get instead of actually the person that is like making their baby in a way.
Okay, stop. Well, just one sec. Aisha, you're clearly on edit mode or comment mode, not edit mode. So in the top right of your screen, there's a drop-down menu that will say suggesting. Click on the drop-down and then click editing instead. Okay. Now, Yusra, okay, you've made an argument. I hear it. Let's get some commentary on it. Do we think, firstly, is this in the right box?
It should be in deontology
Why?
because it's first of all you use the thing that we learned today, which is about deontology and not utilitarianism.
Which part? Which words clearly
the
indicate this?
second formulation. So because you said that it treats us badly and like it's mean the end and not end the mean, something like that.
You're treating someone as merely means to an end,
Oh yeah.
not as an end in themselves. So just to be clear, it's not treating them meanly yeah, fine. No, that's right. But it's treating them as a means to an end, as a way to achieve your goal. You're not respecting their dignity. All of those ideas, Yusra, are squarely within the second formulation of the categorical imperative. That language of treating people with respect and dignity and not violating their humanity, not treating them as means to an end, all of that is squarely within the second formulation of the categorical imperative. Does that make sense? Now, the only part that still remains in this box is the part that says the woman is unhappy. But that is a different argument, and you wouldn't phrase it in this way. Because the woman, well, I'll try to make this clear in a second, but does it make sense at the outset where if you're using terms like respect, dignity, humanity, this is going to be in deontology?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, is it the humanity formula, the one that we were talking about? Okay.
Exactly.
Well,
Now, yeah, so you should put that over in deontology. Now, whether or not the argument is even correct, whether or not you're correct about this application of the humanity formula is another question that we can get to. But just what box should it be in? Should definitely be in deontology. Yeah, the con-util argument is what Hamza put. Hamza, what is your con-util argument?
My con-util argument is that paid surrogacy can cause suffering because it can lead to severe injuries and even to death.
Death and severe injuries, boom, that is a utility argument. Does that make sense? That's just like, oh, it's bad for your body, and you might die. Classic. We don't care about principles here. We're just caring about outcomes. Now, there must be other reasons why it might cause suffering, right? Like, can anyone think of another reason? How else might someone suffer because of surrogacy, even if it's not a physical thing?
The scars left on her body that makes her insecure.
Okay, so yeah, like makes the surrogate mother less secure because her body changes and maybe she has scars or stretch marks. Someone write that in quickly.
and also mentally. So when you have a baby, when you have a lot of weight, and also you can do less things because, for example, you can't do sport, you can't run, so it's harm mentally.
Put it down. Exactly. Good. Good argument, but put it in.
We could I think I mentioned this, but I not in that box, but the fact that she's asked to be emotionally disconnected to the fetus, which is not a fair ask.
Okay, so it might not be a fair ask. What deontological principle are you referring to there?
I wrote it down here.
Do you think
I wrote that she may disagree, which potentially violates her bodily and emotional autonomy.
right? So I would rebut that. I'd rebut that by saying, wait, but she did agree. She agreed. She wrote in the contract, she wrote her name, and the contract said she can't develop an emotional attachment. She can't express the emotional attachment to the baby ever. Now, I can't control what she actually feels, but she agreed to never express it, even if she felt it, right?
Yeah.
So, is it really violating her autonomy if she agreed to this process? That's a debate, right? But, Yusra, the first part of that, which is she might feel an attachment in the end, whether she wanted to or not, and that might make her feel very upset when she has to hand over the baby. Yes?
That fits
Now,
under utilitarianism. Okay.
put it in.
Also, the baby
Go ahead.
might not be happy when he's born and he grows up, like the babies, and they know that like at the end of the day, their mother is not really their mother.
Maybe an IVF baby. The name of this is this IVF surrogacy? Yeah. So the baby might grow up with an identity crisis and feel some sadness about not knowing their surrogate mother. Put it down. Good. Well done, guys. You guys, once you know what you're trying to develop, you guys are really quick at developing it and really good. We just have to figure out, what fits where. Okay, let's go to Util Pro. Aisha, Util Pro. Let's go.
So, for the parents that cannot, that cannot produce the baby because they're basically infertile, well, this woman, she's gonna help them have their baby, and so this maximizes their happiness because they're happy that they're gonna have a baby, even if it's still like their embryos are injected into this woman, so it's technically still
Yeah.
their baby, and they're happy.
And so why are they happy? Can you try and explain? Like this would be what your argument would have to express is like, why would this make them happy?
Well, they're happy because they obviously wanted a baby if they paid this surrogacy. And so this kind of process helped them achieve what they wanted, which was a baby. And so this, again, maximizes their health.
And you know what I'm going to ignore that. That's really good. Yeah, that's perfect. And so there's an interesting idea here that we don't have time to get into. Yeah, I'm going to leave it. Okay, so really, really good. Fantastic, fantastic. And then Yi-Yun, do you agree that your argument is the same as hers? Like your one up there?
Yeah.
Good. Perfect. No problem with that. And Yusra, your other pro argument, the woman is paid for this service, so she gets a bunch of money. Maybe she feels fulfilled from having done a good job, and she gets money, so she's happier as well. Maybe she was really broke before this, right? Yeah, perfect. Okay, let's go on to the harder deontological stuff. So, pro deontology. Yusra, you've got the first one.
Yeah, so I mentioned that the woman is paid for the service, which reflects the Kantian deontology of the second one, I think, humanity formula, which is very similar to what we were talking about with the plumber example.
I'll just say, this is where again so I'm repeating something, but I'm going to try to drive it home really clearly now. Ready? Kantian deontology should almost always be in the con. Because Kantian deontology is a way to test whether certain actions must never be completed. It doesn't tell us which actions we should do. It tells us which actions we must never do. So I know this is a subtle distinction and a bit annoying. I get it, but really, when you're on this pro side, you want to rephrase whatever you said in terms of rights. So people have a right to do blah, blah, blah. Kant is talking about things you must never do, duties you must not violate. So what is the equivalent, like mirror image, right that you think you're expressing here? A right to
Be paid for your service.
Yeah, paid for your service. Yeah. Maybe we could phrase it as like a right to, isn't it bodily autonomy? You have a right to consent, or like to
Yeah.
consent to contracts. What about that? This is like making it sound economic, but that is what it is. It's an economic relation. So you have a right to bodily autonomy, and you have a right to like contract out your labor and your time. Yeah, you have a right to develop contracts. I think that is the argument. Now, guys, before we go on, oh, yeah, oh God, we're running so low on time. Okay, focus. I'm telling that to myself. Let's develop very briefly the theory, thesis, and argument section for Yusra's first deontology claim on the pro, which is also the same as Aisha's. Okay, so let's go below. Everyone come down here, come down below the actually, no, let's do it above. Above. Ready? Up above. So come to me. You can look at my screen or you can be on yours, but look above. Here. We are pulling from this section here. So, Carly, what is the cross section, the intersection on the table? What are we looking at here? What's the column and what's the row
I don't
of
really
the thing
understand.
So you see how we have columns and rows, right, in this table?
Yeah,
Yeah. So I've highlighted a section.
yeah.
What column is it in and what row is it in? I'm just,
The third column and the second row.
but what are the labels? I need the labels because the ideas are the important thing, not the numbers.
The pros of deontology.
That's right. That's right. So that answer of which box is it in tells us so much about how we are going to construct our case. For instance, it tells us what our theory is. Sorry, it tells us what our thesis is. It tells us what our theory is. Just the information about where this box is in the table immediately tells us what's our thesis and what's our theory. So, Yiyun, what's the thesis? How do I know what the thesis is? Is that expressed in the column or the row?
So it's expressed on column.
Mm,
No.
really? Because the column has pro and con.
Yeah, the row.
Yeah, the row tells me whether I'm answering in the affirmative or the negative. If it's in the first row, I'm in the affirmative. If it's in the second row, I'm on the negative. So what are we in? What are we on? We're on the affirmative, right? So therefore, we can put in our thesis. Here's the question. Boom. The answer is yes, because it's in the pro. There we go. Done. Does this make sense to everyone? Yes? Aisha, good. Hamza? So or good?
Yeah, good.
Okay. So boom, easy. Just by knowing what row it is in, we know what thesis we have. What about the theory? Where do we get our theory from? Is it the column or the row?
The column.
The column. So what's the theory?
Theory, deontology.
Okay, and what did we just learn about creating deontological cases?
Using
What do we need to do?
using Kantian formulations. Kantian, is it
Kantian.
Kantian, sorry.
Kantian. That's okay.
Kantian
So
formulation.
is that what I said? Is it that you always have to use Kantian
No,
deontology?
and also you could use wait.
Just general principles.
Yeah, general principles.
That
yeah,
you
like
and
bodily
autonomy.
autonomy.
Yeah, perfect. Exactly. Good. I love it when you mispronounce things because it means you're learning. Okay, perfect. Exactly. Now, what did I say about the deontology theory section? There's some more specific stuff that I just taught you. I know I went quickly. What did I teach you about the deontology theory section? What must you not do?
You never you can't you need can't oh sorry, you can't say the good thing. No, like you need to say what is wrong and not no
That's only for Kantian deontology.
uh
Other deontological principles, like a right to something, I have a right to bodily autonomy. That can be like a positive statement of like what I can do. Kantian deontology tells us what we can't do, but other deontological principles tells us what we can do. Like I have a right to bodily autonomy. That is a positive statement. Okay, so that's not the thing that I was talking about. Good guess, right? I know this is so tough. Teaching this in an hour and a half is like totally crazy, by the way. You're doing such a good job here. But no, not that. What did I say you must not do when you're presenting your theory for deontology? It's
you
on this
can't
page somewhere.
say
Go
the
ahead.
conclusion.
You're sure?
Maybe that we should like that deontology is like a branch, like the tree, and there are many branches to it, and that we should be specific about which way we want to go.
You need a specific principle. Great. What's our specific principle here?
Bodily autonomy.
Bodily autonomy and consent, the right to consent to contracts. These are the principles, right? You wrote them down here. Yeah? Now, what's next? What else do we need?
An example to explain
And this
the
example, where must this example not come from? What must this example not be?
The document.
the case itself.
The actual case. It has to be something separate to the case to prove the principle before we apply it to the case. Exactly. Oh, beautiful. Yes. So, what's the example we can use here to demonstrate that people have a right to make contracts about what they do with their body? Where is a place in our society where we allow people to make decisions about what they do with their body, even if it's difficult and tough and challenging?
In the hospital,
Like what?
uh, like whether you want to get a surgery or not.
Yeah,
Doing
I can think of
plastic
something.
surgery.
Yeah. Is that like a contract in the same way that like we're talking about the right to sign a contract? And specifically, the contract we're talking about is to make money by selling something about yourself.
Your organs in when you die.
You can sell your organs. You actually normally can't sell your organs.
Oh,
Right?
really?
Organ,
Not sell, but like when you die, you give them. Is it
but
not?
then how? But that's not really a contract, is it? That's not like a paid contract. So that's why it's a bit of a different case. Let me tell
Maybe,
you a story. Oh, huh?
sorry.
Oh, I'll tell you a story. I'm going to tell you a story, and you can see whether you think there's a parallel. Guys, I grew up in Australia. I told you this, right? I'm obviously Australian. You know this from my accent. What do you guys know about Australia?
Uh,
Say the stereotype. It's fine.
kangaroos.
Kangaroos. Okay, boing, boing, boing. Great. What else?
There's lots of wildfires.
Wildfires. What else?
They all
And
Snake.
Insect.
Thing.
snakes as well. We're
Snakes.
super famous for our snakes. We have crazy snakes. I'm sure Morocco has like what some snakes and spiders and stuff as well, right? Like bugs. No, is it? You have dangerous stuff. Okay, Australia packed with dangerous things. Crazy. Now, I worked. So I wanted to go to Canada for university because my mum's Canadian and I love Canada and I wanted to go live near with my grandparents. But my parents weren't rich enough to just pay for me to go and like have this experience and like go live overseas. Because if I'd stayed in Australia, I could have lived at home, right? And that would have been free, right? And I could have gotten government money to pay for my university. So I didn't need any money from my parents to just stay home. They would have given me a house, like a place to stay, like my brother did, but it wouldn't have been an expense. So they were never going to pay for me to go internationally to university in Canada. I was going to have to make the money myself. So I went to my friend and over the course of 2 years pestered him and said, "Your dad owns a I want to go. I want to go because I know I can make money. You know what a pearl farm is, right? Pearl, like a pearl necklace, right? Um, where they raise them on the ocean, right? In with these big oysters. And I was like, this guy's dad has this farm. I can go out there. I can make all the money I need to go to live in Canada. So eventually I was offered the job and I said yes. And it was in this situation where I'd never met the dad. And then he like comes barging in and he's like, "Archie, I hear you want a job." And he's this really scary guy. And I was like, "Yeah, I do want a job." He's like, "Can you leave in 24 hours?" I was like, okay, I'm gonna miss like my 18th birthday, Christmas, New Year's, levers, like all of these important things. My girlfriend's gonna be so mad at me, but like, okay, yes, I'm gonna do it. So he goes, "Write your name down here." So I write my name down. He goes into the other room, and I turn around and, do you know what you just agreed to? You have no idea. I left in 24 hours and I didn't come back for 2.5 months. And I was out on the spit of land, 3 hours from the nearest town by boat. And there were crazy people out there. I'm covered in cigarette burns because they put cigarettes out on me. Like, I have cigarette burns here because I was just like abused on this farm. Like, hazed basically to become part of the culture there. I was this like young 17-year-old like skinny guy and they were these tough like country guys and they were like abuse the living hell out of me in order to like try to make me break and quit basically, but instead I got through it and ended up staying there for over a year. There were snakes out there, snakes that could kill you easily. They called them cigarette snakes. And they said every time, if you get bitten by a cigarette snake, the best thing you can do, sit down, roll up a cigarette and smoke it. It's the last thing you'll ever do because you can't get back to town where they have a hospital in time before the venom kills you, right? Full stop. There's no way. There are sharks in the water and you have to lean over the edge of the boat to do the job. And then sharks swim right underneath your hands. And you're like, "Wah!" Right? On the lines, there are things called spider crabs with these pincers coming out of their head. And you have to scrape down the line like this. And like every day, you scrape down the line, and one of these crabs is facing towards you, and their two pincer needles stab you straight in this muscle here. And it's like, ah! There's fireweed on all of the lines that make your arms burn. The only way to stop it is to get in the shower after work and burn your arms with hot water until you stop feeling it. It's crazy, right? That's crazy. Do you guys think I am allowed to go back there and work if I want to? As in, is it ethical? Was it ethical at the time for me to choose to stay in that job? You guys think no? You guys think I wronged myself? I committed an immoral action against myself because I decided to go back after the first time?
No, I think it's unethical to yourself to do that again.
You do think so? You think I was like morally wrong to say to myself after the first time and I finished my first university year, I was like, I'm going to go back and make the same amount of money again so I can pay for university again. I know what the risks are. I know how bad it is. I want to do it anyway because the risks are not outweighed by the rewards. The rewards are better and it'll allow me to continue living my life. It's the reason I'm in America now. It's the reason I have the degrees I have now. And I knew it at the time. I was like, I know that making this decision, it's hard, but I want to do it for my own benefit. Do you really think it was immoral for me to do that?
I mean, the action itself is unethical, but you did it for a purpose to pay up for something, so that's kind of cancels out.
Does it cancel it out, or does it actually make it like the right thing for me to do?
Cancel that out.
I think each
Cancels
one
it.
has their own rights to choose what they want. Like even though it's hard or not, it's unethical or not. But like, yeah, you chose it. But it depends, like if you have consent or not. Like if you know that it will be really harsh and like uh, harmful. Like
I
I think it's your choice. And sometimes when you're in a place where you're for not you're forced, but like if you don't do it, you can't have a life that you want. Yeah, like you have no choice to just do it, and it's not unethical. I think it's just your decision.
I, I did have a choice, by the way. I could have not done it. I could have stayed in Australia, right? That was my other option. I didn't have to do university in Canada,
But it's your choice.
especially in this.
It's
It
the
was my
choice.
choice. Precisely. In other words, this is a case where I have bodily autonomy to sign a contract, to consent to a contract, even though the contract is difficult. Aisha, you were going to say something.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say that I don't think it's unethical towards yourself because at the end of the day, you knew what the stakes were and you still did it because it was your choice. So I don't think it's unethical.
So now, do we have an example, a clear example that demonstrates, well, Yusra still thinks it was unethical, right? You still think it was wrong for me to do this. Is that right?
No, I think that in terms of your mental health and your body, it's not good. But whether you think it's worth it or not, then that makes it like whether it's ethical or not.
By the way, I've only told you the bad parts. The good parts were
Oh,
really good. Yeah, like the
okay,
good parts
yeah.
were awesome. I worked out a lot. I got super fit. Like I'm, probably like put on about 10 kilos of muscle like throughout my year of being there. Like no, there's so many positive elements. I made friends who I'll stay friends with forever. Like learned a lot about life, like learned a lot about how to struggle with adversity and like get through things that are really challenging. Like so many positive elements as well that I didn't tell you. But you're still, I think we're getting closer to this idea, right? I am allowed to contract out my time even when it's incredibly difficult and damaging to my body, if that's what I choose to do. And I had other options. Boom. That clearly applies to this case, doesn't it? Isn't that exactly the situation that the woman is in when they make this decision about their body to give up their uterus for 9 months? It's like precisely the same, I think. It's difficult, it's challenging. You don't quite know what you're getting yourself into. You know it's going to be difficult though. It's going to change who you are, but you determine that it's worth it based on the money. Boom, same case. So here, you set up a hypothetical case. Can I please ask you, do not use my specific story in your case, okay? That won't carry any weight. It'll be weird. It'll be weird. The judges are going to be like, wait, why are they talking about Archie? Like, what? Like, don't talk about my specific example. You have to talk hypothetically. So you can recreate a version of my case, but in a hypothetical setting. So imagine a person who, wants to go to university somewhere overseas, but they know the only way to make the money is to do like a really tough job at home, like farming. You can say farming, whatever. Like maybe don't make it pearl farming, but you see what I'm saying, right? Construct a case where this principle becomes very clear and then apply it to you then say in the argument section, this is clearly the same case as a woman who is deciding to be a surrogate. And then you have to demonstrate the similarity between the cases. Any questions? Okay. Again, it is crazy that you guys are about to go to a tournament tomorrow where this is going to be done. People are going to be using these tools. There are also going to be 2 or 3 other ethical theories that they're going to be using that you've never have heard of. Okay? And they're going to be using them. And there are 8 cases that you need to think about. This one is about paid surrogacy. The next one is about a woman who is in America and she is a researcher for a you know what? This is what I'm gonna do. I'm summarizing each case for you in the next 5 minutes. Okay? This is probably the most useful thing that we could do now. Doctors Without Boundaries is about a woman, Dr. Clara, who does research on electrochemical brain zapping. It's where you literally electrocute someone's brain. It's a crazy thing, but people do it. And it's meant to help you with certain diseases and mental disorders. And she thinks, oh, there's probably an application for people who have neuroatypical disorders like ADHD or autism, and they feel anxious. I think I can solve that with brain zapping, with this electrotherapy. But the medical board, the medical society at her university says, no, 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 you can't do this research. It's too risky. No. So what does she do? She goes over to India, where she knows she can do this research, where they're not going to tell her no. So she goes to India, she starts zapping brains, and she starts pumping out research. Boom. Is that right or wrong? Okay. That's case 2. Case 3, video game cheating. Imagine you're playing a video game. It's obviously wrong to cheat when you're playing against other people because you violate their humanity and you harm them. But what if you're playing a single player video game? Is it wrong to cheat when you're doing that? How could that possibly harm you, right? Does it develop bad character traits that make you a worse person? Okay. Case 4, Google tax. Oh, you have so much to learn in the next 12 hours. Google tax is, I'm not trying to scare you. Google tax is where big multinational corporations like Google operate in countries, but then they have their corporate profits taxed in a specific place like Ireland, where there is a very low corporate tax rate. And different countries around the world are like, come, Google, come, we'll give you a lower corporate tax rate. We'll give you a lower corporate tax rate. And then they don't pay any corporate tax in a place like England where they generate billions of dollars. They do generate other taxes for England, like sales taxes and income taxes, but corporate profits taken offshore. The UK a few years ago said, no more. We are going to tax your corporate profits. You can't stop us. And they taxed in like $250 billion. Is it right to do that? Should companies threaten to go elsewhere if the tax rates are too high? Should countries be able to tax corporate profits that are created in their jurisdiction? Big question. Okay, that's the economic one. Airbag and banned. In Spain, they have protested recently saying we don't want all these all these tourists in our country. These tourists, they ruin our culture, they annoy us. We hate them. We want them out. And we want the housing that would have been used for Airbnb to be used for citizens. It takes up housing units that we need to live in. Okay? The other side, well, all these tourists are bringing you a lot of money. They're increasing their capital. And if I buy a house in Spain and want to rent it out as an Airbnb, I have the right to do that, don't I? That's the clash there. Yes, you see the ethical tension? Okay. Next. Speed limiters. We've done this. 7. Severance. Ooh, has anyone seen the TV show Severance? No? Okay, here's the case. They come up with a psychological tool to sever your mind. So when you go to work and you go down in the elevator to work, your mind is separated. So then you don't have any memories from your outie, from when you're outside of work, and your outie never has memories from when you're inside work. So that means that you could argue you've created a second person. And so the person who doesn't go to work never goes to work. They just sort of have the experience of clocking in, going into the elevator, and then boom, they suddenly reappear from the elevator. They don't know what they did all day. They don't remember working. They just get to experience life on the outside. But the innie, who has only memories of inside work, is the inverse. They wake up every day, or they just have this experience of arriving at work, walking in, doing a day of work, going to the elevator, pressing the button, stepping in, and then boom, suddenly they're back at work. So their life is always at work. Does that make sense? Crazy case. Is it ethical to sever yourself in this way? Question. Yiyun. This isn't a real thing, by the way.
It's a real thing.
Not a real thing.
It's not. Oh, it's not a real thing.
No, it's a Ben Stiller Netflix TV show which you can find like sections of it on YouTube. It's really creepy and kind of freaky in a way, but it's an amazing show. That's what that case is about. Okay. Case 8, research behind a paywall. There's a website called Sci-Hub by this Kazakhstanian girl who whatever name is there, where basically it jailbreaks every single academic article on the web. So any academic article that's ever been published, you can put in the DOI, which is like the unique identifier for that article, and you put it into the search, and it breaks through onto this. It breaks through so that you can access this. You can access the article for free, even though normally you'd have to pay for it. Is that ethical? Is it ethical to jailbreak your way into academic articles? They're the 8 cases, guys. In an ideal world, you would go through each of these 8 cases and you'd read them carefully. You'd have like an hour of discussion on each one, and you'd practice preparing a case based on one of the discussion questions. That is what a real preparation would look like for this tournament. What are you guys thinking? Tell me, where are you at? I want to help you. We have like 1 more minute together. We're actually done, but like we'll go over. What do you think? Give me your thoughts, feelings, concerns, questions.
How can we prepare like
In a rushed way?
in a rushed way.
Okay.
Rushed way.
Seriously, rushed way is this. Who's actually competing? It's 3 of you, right? Yeon, Gali, and Aisha. You should divide the cases up. So 3, 3, and 2, right? One person takes 3, one person takes 3, the other person takes 2. You divide them up. By the way, are we meant to be MNDT staff? Are you taking over this room? Have you got to do something in here?
Yeah, I'm gonna create a breakout room for them. They have another
Thanks
class.
for them. Thanks. Sorry, it will just be another 2 minutes. My bad. Thank you. Is that so I can keep going?
Yes.
Thanks. So, you should split up the cases. Each of you takes 3, 3, 2, or actually wait, how many are there? 8. So but you've already done speed limiters kind of, but no, you should still split that up. And then you should do the preparation that I just showed you, which is creating that table, right? You remember the table? We have pro, con, util, deontology, and then you fill in those boxes with arguments from the case and from your own intuition about those cases. Yes? And then you should pick the simplest possible question. So for severance, the question would be what? Is it okay to sever yourself? Is it ethical? Just like try to pick the simplest case. Like, is it ethical to do X? And just the most basic version. Is it ethical to ban Airbnb in Spain? Right? And then you should construct a case for that. So a full presentation, just not like you don't want to write out all the words, you want to write out the ideas. So you're like, okay, I think we should approach this from a deontological point of view. We should focus on this case. Here's the deontological principle that we're going to use. Here is an example of the principle. Here's the application to the case. Here's a counter argument. Here's the discharge. Here's the conclusion. And you do that for your 3 cases. Then you all meet up later and you go through and you explain to each other what you've prepared. And then you spend like, you do need to have spent that should take each person an hour and a half or 2 hours on their own time to do their 3 or 2 or 3 cases, maybe less. Then you should come together and have another 3 hours, hopefully, before the tournament where you get to discuss all of this. Does that make sense? And you go through and you like teach each other what you've learned and what your ideas are. This will give you a baseline for being able to participate in the competition. You think you can do that, Yiyun?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah? Okay. Okay. Any
Actually,
last
I had a
questions?
question.
Yeah.
So, for the study questions, is that for the students' purposes only, or do the judges get to decide which of the 3 they get asked?
No, me and Zach have decided what the actual questions are. Some of them might be from these 3 discussion questions. Some of them might be outside. Some of them are deliberately more difficult and less related to the case, and they're like a totally different question. Some of them are the straightforward question that you're going to prepare. You can't worry about that. You just need to get a basic understanding of the ethical tension in each case. And then you need to, when we give you the question on the day, you have 3 minutes to like be, to change things or adapt to that question. You won't be able to use the case that you prepare. You might have to generate a new case on the spot using your grid or using your intuition. Okay? That's like, obviously, if we had 30 hours together, that's what we'd be practicing. How do you adapt to different questions and stuff? You don't have time for that. So you're just going to get a basic grip of the case, of each case, of how to explain the main ethical tensions and how to answer a simple question on them. Does that make sense?
Yes, thanks.
Okay. Buena suerte. Oh, go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
All right, last question. For the last part where judges ask us questions, how many questions are they going to ask, and how many times we need
7
to
minutes.
we need to answer 7 minutes?
No,
Okay.
no. There are 7 minutes of judges' questions. So they're gonna go, you go back and forth. It's like a conversation. The judge is gonna be like, okay, I really like that, but like, can you explain your theory a little more? And then you're gonna be like, yeah, well, here's what it is. And then when you're done, they're gonna ask another question for 7 minutes.
Oh, and do we have time to discuss between each other?
You're allowed to, but you're not gonna be put into a breakout room for that. You have to have a phone call going.
Yeah. And also
And and then wait, you have to say to the judge, hey judge, can we just have 30 seconds to discuss that? And the judge will say, yeah, of course. Go ahead.
Okay.
You had another question?
No, thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Buena suerte. This has been a wonderful crash course. You guys are going to crush it. I believe in you. And I'll see you tomorrow at the tournament.
Thank you so much, Archie. Everyone unmute and say thank you to Archie.
Yeah.
Yeah, so much.
No worries, guys.
Thank
No worries.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Thanks.
you so
Ciao,
much,
ciao.
Archie. Students,
Of
please
course.
stay behind
Ciao.
for a bit. Thank you so much, Archie. Great. So, guys, I know that is a lot of
Oh my
information.
God.
A lot of information. Let me